Good morning. This morning, I'm going to go over some of the verbal cues that are used when using gray block paper. You may have a sheet like this that's handwriting without tears, formation chart. We're going to loosely be using that. And the gray block paper is also a handwriting without tears method. The purpose for the gray blocks is to provide a better visual to help a child target their pencil and make their letters the correct size while they're learning. What I always do is I always provide a starting point for them to target the pencil. So to start the letter A, I would do the starting point in the middle because it's a center starter. And the verbal cues would be, you're going to do a big line to the corner, big line to the corner, little line across. And then the child would do the same thing underneath. If they have difficulty with that, sometimes you can provide a little bit more of a visual cue by adding dots to the corners, and you can say connect to the dot, connect to the corner, little line across. Frog jump letters are a handwriting without tears method. And what you would do is teach the child to trace the side. And so that's going to be a big line, tracing the side, little curve, little curve. Big line, little curve, little curve. C as a center starter, big curve. So handwriting without tears uses 4 terms for consistency. Those would be your big line, your little line, your big curve, and your little curve. Letters that start on the side, big line, frog jump, you come back to the starting point, big curve. Big line, little line, middle line, bottom line. Sometimes I give the cue, you're going to do a big line, trace the top line, middle line, trace the bottom line to remind them that they can use that block to help work on visual motor accuracy. So big line, little line, middle line. Center starter, big curve, little line. Big line, little line. Big line, little line, little line. Big line, little curve, little line. Big line, kick in, kick out. Now, K is a karate kick letter with handwriting without tears. They make the board, kick in to the board, kick out. Because what you don't want to see with a K is something like this, because that's not what we're looking for. Sometimes you need to give the extra visual cues of the corners. And then, they make the first big line and then find your dot. Sometimes I'll even do one in the middle, kick in, kick out until it gets a little easier. It's kind of a hard motor plan. Big line, little line. M is also one. I try and just give the initial starting cue first and see if the child can make the letter like that. Big line, big line, big line, big line. But I often find that I'm making that center mark and at times the edge marks to kind of help. But big line, frog jump, big line, corner, big line. Big line, frog jump, go to the corner and up, big line, frog jump, and then sometimes I do have to give additional visuals. Big line, frog jump, big line, big line. Big curve, or big curve and keep going. Big line, little curve. Cue, I found that a verbal cue to make a target, shoot the arrow in the center of the target and bring it down. That works better than other cues I've given. Big line, frog jump, little curve, little line. Little curve, little line. All right, let me double check that my letters are going to show up here. Okay, QRS. All right. And I may not have mentioned, I'm using a pen so that maybe you can see what I'm doing on the paper a little bit better than with pencil. Hopefully that's a little more effective. You wouldn't want your kindergartner writing with a Sharpie, but that explains why I'm using it. Okay, so big line, little line. T is a center starter is the way you can explain it. So a lot of our letters start in the corner, but T is a center starter, big line, little line. Big curve, big line. You can either have it wide enough to come all the way over, or you can, have that U in the middle. So V, big line, big line. Some of my boys, instead of violet vase, they like the image of a vampire. So I'll say vampire tooth, big line, big line. Walter Walrus is going to have one tusk, two tusks, or you can count lines, big line, big line, big line, big line. There again, you may have to give some additional cues for letter formation. With W, there get to be so many lines that it gets hard to add your extra dots. All right, so sometimes for an X, we can say draw to the corner. Sometimes that's enough, but lots of times, especially for when my kids are first starting, that's not enough. And so sometimes we have to say, here's your starting point. You're going to draw to the corner and draw across. Kids often don't have the vocabulary to understand diagonal lines. And so as you're working, you can explain that a line that starts in this corner and goes to that corner, that's diagonal because it goes across. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. So for your Y, you're going to put a point in the middle for them to aim for. Little line, big line. Developmentally, any lines with diagonals are more difficult than letters without diagonals. And Z is going to be a zigzag zebra. You're going to trace the top line, aim for that opposite corner, and trace the bottom line. So in general, all of your letters that have your diagonals are going to need a little bit more work. Your K's, because developmentally they're harder, and the understanding and ability to draw diagonals happens later. I'm going to try and breeze through numbers real quick. So 1, big curve, little line, little curve, little curve. Little line, big line, little line, little curve, big line, big curve, and all the way around, little line, big line. see if I can get that one back up in view. 8 is going to be make an S and then connect it to the starting point. And 9 is going to be loop and line, make a 9. Let me know if you have any questions about using gray block paper. Thanks.